So in this class, we will understand what are redirect URL parameters. So when building applications that integrate with the identity platform, understanding how to configure redirect URL is essential. So here we will help you to redirect URL best practices, supported configurations and limitations. Whether you are developing a web, mobile, or desktop application, this will help you correctly configure redirect URLs to meet security requirements. So let us understand what is a redirect URI. So a redirect URI or reply URL, both are one and the same. So a redirect URI or reply URL, it is the location where the Microsoft Entra authentication server sends the user once they have successfully authorized and been taken an access token. So to sign in a user, your application must send a login request with a redirect URI specified as a parameter. So after the user has successfully signed in, the authentication server will redirect the user and issue an access token to the redirect URI specified in the login request. So in a production web application, for example, the redirect URI is often a public endpoint where your app is running. For example, let us take http://contoso.com/auth response. So during development, it is common to also add the endpoint where you run your app locally, like http://127.0.0.1/auth response. Or we can take other URL like http://localhost/auth response. So be sure that any unnecessary development environments or redirect URIs are not exposed in the production app. So this can be done by having separate app registrations for development and production. Now let us see, why do redirect URIs need to be added to an app registration. So why do we redirect URIs? Why do redirect URIs need to be added to an app registration? Let us see. So for security reasons, the authentication server won't redirect users or send tokens to a URI that is not added to the app registration. So Microsoft Entra login servers only redirect users and send tokens to redirect URIs that have been added to an app registration. So if the redirect URI specified in the login request doesn't match any of the redirect URIs you have added in your application, then you receive an error message. Like I will give you an example, AADSTS50011. The reply URL specified in the request does not match the reply URLs configured for the application. So this is an error message that you receive. Now let us see, should I add a redirect URI to an app registration? So whether you should add a redirect URI to your app registration depends on the authorization protocol your application uses. So you must add appropriate redirect URIs to your app registration if your application is using a few authorization protocols. So let me give you those protocols. OAuth 2.0, authorization, code flow. Next, OAuth 2.0, client credentials flow. Then the next protocol is OAuth 2.0, implicit grant flow. Next is OpenID Connect. Next protocol is single sign-on SAML protocol. So we need to add appropriate redirect URIs to your app registration if your application is using any of these authorization protocols. And you don't need to add redirect URIs to your app registration if your application is used these protocols. So if you are using these protocols, you need to add a redirect URI. But in which cases you don't have to add a redirect URI, I will give you those protocols also. So the first protocol is native authentication. So if you are using native authentication protocol, then you don't have to add a redirect URI to your app registration. And then the other protocol is OAuth 2.0 device code flow. Then the other protocol is OAuth 2.0 on behalf of flow. Then the other protocol is OAuth 2.0 resource owner password credential flow. Then the next is Windows integrated auth flow. Then the other protocol is SAML 2.0 identity provider, that is IDP, for single sign-on. So if you are using any one of these protocols, then you don't have to add redirect URI to your app registration. Now let us see what platform should I add my redirect URIs to. So if the application you are building contains one or multiple redirect URIs in your app registration, then you need to enable a public client flow configuration. This is very important. We need to enable a public client flow configuration. So I will give you a table which gives you guidance on the type of redirect URI you should or you should not add based on the platform you are building your application on. So I have given you a table for web application redirect URI configuration. So the type of your application is a traditional web application where most of the application logic is performed on the server. Then the typical languages or frameworks used is Node.js, Web, ASP.NET, Python, Java, ASP.NET Core, PHP, Ruby, Blazor server. And the platform to add redirect URI in app registration is web. Now, this is the second type of your application, that is a single page application where most of the user interface logic is performed in a web browser communicating with the web server primarily using web APIs. And the typical languages or frameworks used is JavaScript, Angular, React, Blazor, WebAssembly, Vue.js. And what is the platform to add redirect URI? In app registration, that is single page application, SPA. So now you can see these are mobile and desktop application redirect URI configuration. So if the type of your application is an iOS or Mac OS app excluding the scenarios, then the typical languages will be Swift, Objective-C. And the platform to add redirect URI to your in your app registration is iOS or macOS. And then if your type of your application is an Android app, then the language or framework used is Java or Kotlin, and the platform used is Android. And if the type of your application is an app that runs natively on a mobile device or a desktop machine, then the languages or the frameworks used is Node.js, Electron, Windows Desktop, UWP, React Native, Android, iOS, or macOS. And over here, the platform used is mobile and desktop applications. So if you are building an iOS app using any one of the methods, then use the mobile and desktop applications platform to add a redirect URI. So what can you use? iOS apps using open source SDKs. That is AppAuth. Then the next is iOS apps using cross-plat tech. We don't support. That is Flutter. And the next is iOS apps implementing our OAuth protocols directly. Then next is Mac OS apps using cross-plat tech. We don't support. That is Electron. So now you see, I have given you applications that don't require a redirect URI. So the type of application is applications running on devices that have no keyboard. Then examples are like applications running on smart TV, IoT device, or a printer. And associated OAuth flow is device code flow. And next application is applications that handle password users enter directly instead of redirecting users to Entra hosted login website and letting Entra handle user password in a secure manner. Like you should only use this flow when other more secure flows like authorization code flow are not viable because it is not as secure. And the associated OAuth flow is resource owner password credential flow.